This is a hobby author publishing presentation, where my hobby is your entertainment.
Welcome back to Shadows of Secrets. The bargain has been struck. With Kryxia's resonant scryer, Gerrod and Ace now hold the key to seeing the unseeable, to finding the Shadow Myster's hidden stronghold. But seeing the fortress and entering it are two different things. The veil is weakening, but the Myster's agents are closing in, turning the Ivory Ward into a hunting ground. Today, in Chapter 19, The Veiled Fortress, the infiltration begins. It is a desperate race against time, a final stealthy maneuver before the storm breaks. One wrong step, one moment of hesitation, and the hunt will be over before it truly begins.
Chapter 19, The Veiled Fortress. The crystal lens pulsed in Gerrod's palm, a soft violet glow flickering like a candle's breath. It tugged toward the city's heart, past the twisting alleys of merchants and the grime-choked streets they knew too well. Toward wealth, toward danger. Ace exhaled through his nose, watching the lens shift ever so slightly in his friend's grip. "Course it'd be up there," he muttered, adjusting the worn leather strap across his chest. "Rich bastards always hiding the good stuff." Gerrod frowned, rolling the lens between his fingers. "I expected ruins, tunnels, not estates lined with gilded gates." The weight of uncertainty pressed between his ribs. The upper district meant tight patrols, sharper eyes, and the kind of trouble that didn't forget a face. Ace huffed, glancing toward the opulent sprawl beyond the common streets. Ain't nothing worse than nobles with secrets. They don't just lock doors, they bury the key with the poor sod who found it. He jerked his chin toward a side street, already mapping the approach. Best move. No sense gawking in open air. Gerrod slipped the lens into his belt pouch and followed. The street's noise dimmed behind them, swallowed by shadows cast from high stone walls. A market bell tolled in the distance. Somewhere, laughter spilled from a tavern, easy and careless. Nothing like the tight coil winding in his gut. They were walking into a den of wolves, and neither of them had the luxury of sheep's wool. The streets of the upper district gleamed beneath lantern light, polished stone glistening like wet pearl. Grand mansions loomed behind wrought iron gates, their facades draped in ivy and wealth. Manicured gardens spilled perfume into the air, roses, lavender, jasmine, a delicate assault on the senses. Even the cobblestones seemed too fine for the souls of men like them. Gerrod adjusted the drape of his cloak, trying to ignore the eyes flicking toward them from beneath feathered hats and jeweled masks. Their presence was a stain on the pristine world of silk and silver. A pair of guards lingered by a fountain, their armor bright, their hands resting lazily on pommels. Watching. Judging. Ace grunted. "Feel like I walked into a bloody painting." His lip curled as a noblewoman passed, her gown sweeping the stones, perfume thick enough to choke a man. Dunno what's worse, the perfume or the smug. Gerrod scanned the street ahead, voice low. "We stand out." "No shit." Ace scratched his beard, eyes narrowing. "We need clothes, something that don't scream cutthroat and wanderer." A noble couple passed, their attire fine but not ostentatious. Gerrod followed their path to a row of shops lining the street. A tailor's sign swayed gently in the night breeze. His fingers brushed the coin pouch at his hip. Not much, but maybe enough. He met Ace's gaze. "Time to play dress-up." Gerrod straightened his shoulders, adjusting the borrowed cloak so it draped smoothly over his frame. The fabric was finer than he liked, stiff at the collar, but it would have to do. Beside him, Ace tugged at his own coat, scowling as if the expensive wool offended him. "Feeling proper yet?" Ace muttered under his breath. "Like a wolf in a henhouse," Gerrod replied, forcing an air of ease into his stride. He moved as he had seen nobles move, deliberate, unhurried, as if the world bent to his whims. Ace did the same, though the effect was more retired sellsword turned merchant than aristocrat. It would have to be enough. The streets pulsed with murmured conversation, the rustle of fine silks, and the occasional clink of wine glasses from an open terrace. Here, laughter was measured, gestures restrained. Every movement spoke of power, of knowing you belonged. Gerrod felt the weight of eyes, guards, servants, nobles assessing strangers in their midst. A pair of men in embroidered doublets paused at a street corner, their gazes lingering just a moment too long. Gerrod met their eyes with casual disinterest, as if they were beneath his notice. They looked away first. Ace exhaled slowly. "Reckon I like this even less than skulkin' in alleys." Gerrod nodded, keeping his pace steady. Just a little farther. They had to reach the Citadel before their borrowed masks cracked. The air grew thick with scrutiny. Beneath the perfume and candlelit splendor, tension coiled, unseen but undeniable. Gerrod felt it first, that prickling awareness, the sense of being measured, marked. Ace shifted beside him, his fingers curling as if reaching for a blade that wasn't there. "Too many guards?" he muttered, eyes flicking toward a trio of armored men idling near a marble archway. They weren't just patrolling. They were watching. Gerrod's gaze slid past them, catching movement in the periphery. A figure in a dark hood leaned against a lamppost, feigning interest in a passing carriage. Another lingered by a cafe, half hidden in the warm glow of lantern light, sipping wine but never drinking. Not guards. Shadow Myster's rats. The realization settled like a stone in Gerrod's gut. Their disguises had bought them time, but not invisibility. "We're not blending as well as we'd hoped," he murmured, keeping his expression placid. A nobleman's mask, thin as glass. Ace exhaled through his nose, slow and steady. "What's the play?" Gerrod's mind worked fast. Running was suicide. Fighting worse. They had to become ghosts in plain sight. He nodded toward a grand estate where a gala spilled into the street, laughter and music thick in the air. "We disappear into the crowd." Ace smirked. "Aye, let's go be fancy." They stepped toward the lights, into the lion's den. The hunt had begun. Gerrod and Ace moved like whispers on the wind, slipping between gilded courtyards and the deep shadows of ivy-clad walls. The scent of crushed roses and damp earth clung to them as they pressed through a manicured garden, ducking beneath a stone arch just as a pair of guards strode past, their boots ringing sharp against polished stone. Gerrod exhaled slowly. Too close. Ace nudged him forward. "Keep moving. Next one's coming." They cut across a quiet street, slipping between carriages lined up before a grand hall, their wheels still glistening from the evening's rain. A footman shot them a suspicious glance. Gerrod grabbed Ace's arm, feigning the staggering gait of a drunken noble. Ace grunted, but caught on fast. Lord, ye really ought to stop after the third bottle," he slurred, voice thick with affected pomp. The footman snorted in amusement and turned away. They cleared the street and ducked into a side alley, its walls slick with moss and lantern-lit mist. The laughter of revelers faded behind them. "Remind me," Ace whispered, glancing back at the patrols swarming the main roads, "why we didn't just break in through the sewers?" Gerrod scanned the rooftops, the street, the glowing path of the lens hidden in his palm. The Citadel was close. "Because," he murmured, pulling his hood lower, "sometimes rats get eaten first." Ace glanced down at the lens, its soft violet glow pulsing like a heartbeat in Gerrod's palm. It tugged them forward, unerringly, toward a narrow space between two grand estates, each a fortress of wealth and power. He grunted. "That's a piss-poor place to hide a secret." Gerrod's eyes flicked upward, scanning the towering facades. Gilded balconies, tall arched windows, marble pillars, all the trappings of nobility. But the gap between them, a sliver of darkness where the light didn't quite reach, felt different. Purposeful. "It's not hidden," Gerrod murmured, stepping forward. "It's veiled." The street behind them buzzed with life. Guards, revelers, informants lurking in the periphery. They had to move carefully. Ace's jaw tightened. "Bet me last coin there's an entrance in there." His fingers brushed the hilt of the dagger hidden beneath his coat. But if it's that close to nobility, means it's guarded some way. Magic, men, or both. Gerrod nodded, tucking the lens away. No more dodging. We move like we belong. Ace exhaled, straightened his coat, and rolled his shoulders. Aye, time to walk straight into the lion's mouth. They strode forward, slipping into the sliver of darkness, where the city's illusions began to fray. The weight of unseen eyes pressed down on them like a tightening noose. Every step forward drew more glances, more shifting figures in the periphery. Street sweepers who never swept, beggars who never begged, merchants who packed their stalls too slowly. Shadow Myster's rats. Ace's fingers twitched, aching for steel. "They're on to us," he muttered, barely moving his lips. Gerrod nodded, muscles coiled tight. The veil was thinning, the illusion of safety unraveling with every step. If they kept moving as they were, they'd walk straight into a trap. He slowed his stride, rolling his shoulders as if adjusting his cloak. "We lose them," he murmured. Ace huffed. "Oh, sure. Easy. Let me just disappear into thin." Gerrod veered left, not toward the gap between the mansions, but into the garden of the nearest estate. He moved without hesitation, as if he had every right to be there. Ace cursed under his breath, but followed. They wove through sculpted hedges and marble statues, keeping low, their movements blending with the flickering lantern light. A Shadow Myster informant turned his head just as they slipped behind a thick-trunked tree, its heavy branches swallowing them whole. Ace exhaled sharply. "Hells!" He peered between the leaves, watching the informant scan the street. "You're getting too good at this." Gerrod pulled his hood lower. "Not good enough yet." The Citadel was close, and so was the hunt. Gerrod pressed his back against the cold stone wall, breath steady despite the racing pulse in his throat. Across from him, Ace crouched low, watching as a pack of Shadow Myster's informants swept past the alley's mouth, their boots striking sharp against the cobbles. Their voices were hushed, urgent, hunters closing in on prey. Ace exhaled through his nose. "They're spread thin, running in circles trying to find us." He glanced at Gerrod. "Time to stop hiding and start moving." Gerrod nodded. The moment for careful steps had passed. The Citadel was near, hidden just beyond that narrow passage. If they lingered, the Meister's men would tighten their net. He pulled the lens from his belt. It flared in his palm, brighter now, its pull insistent. A direction, a certainty. "There," he murmured, motioning ahead. A shadowed corridor, barely more than a crevice between the two great mansions. It wasn't an entrance meant to be found. It was a place meant to be ignored. Ace cracked his knuckles. Fast and clean. Gerrod nodded once. Then they moved. Slipping through the alley's end, they darted across an open courtyard, their steps soundless against polished stone. No time for doubt. No time for fear. The veil of the city thinned before them, revealing what had been hidden all along. The Veiled Citadel awaited. Gerrod's breath came sharp and measured as he sprinted through the manicured garden, boots whispering over damp grass. The scent of crushed lavender clung to the air, mixing with the distant burn of torch oil. Ace moved beside him, surprisingly light for his stocky frame, his coat snapping behind him. "Too open," he muttered between breaths. "Need cover." Gerrod scanned ahead. A low stone wall marked the garden's edge, separating them from another shadowed alley. Beyond it, the Citadel's hidden path. But behind them, the city stirred, muffled shouts, the telltale scrape of steel leaving scabbards. No time. He leaped, boots striking the stone as he vaulted over, landing in a crouch. Ace followed with a grunt, rolling to absorb the impact. They pressed forward, slipping between the narrow alley walls, the space barely wide enough for them to pass. The air grew cooler, thick with damp stone and something else, an energy humming beneath their skin, subtle but unmistakable. The Citadel's veil. Gerrod risked a glance back. Shadows flickered at the garden's edge. Figures moved. The hunt was closing in. Ace's voice was tight. "No stopping now." Gerrod faced forward, one last push. They ran. Gerrod's lungs burned as he wove through the lantern-lit streets, slipping between nobles and merchants with barely a breath to spare. Ace stayed close, his shorter frame moving like a shadow, quick and deliberate. A pair of guards turned at the sound of hurried steps. Gerrod caught Ace's sleeve and spun them both into a passing cluster of revelers, masking their momentum with feigned drunken laughter. Perfumed silk brushed against his arm, a noblewoman's startled gasp nearly giving them away. Then they were moving again, cutting down a side street, slipping between stacks of cargo outside a wealthy tradesman's home. Ace growled, landing hard as he cleared a low iron fence. "Swear, this city's got more walls than sense." Gerrod scaled it just as a torchlit patrol passed behind them. The glow stretched long shadows, flickering over the damp cobbles where they just stood. One breath later, and they would have been caught. They pressed on, ducking beneath a stone archway, past a kitchen servant emptying washwater into the street. The scent of roasting meat hit Gerrod's nose, mocking, distant, utterly removed from the hunt pounding in his veins. A bell rang in the distance. Not an alarm, yet. But time was slipping through their fingers like sand. Gerrod flicked a glance at Ace. "We're close." Ace wiped sweat from his brow, eyes sharp, breath steady despite the chase. "Aye." His fingers flexed, ready. "Time to find the door before they find us." The moment they stepped into the narrow space between the two towering mansions, the lens in Gerrod's palm flared to life. The pulsing glow quickened, no longer a gentle tug, but an urgent pull. Gerrod exhaled. This is it. Ace wiped a sleeve across his brow, scanning the tight corridor. Ain't much to look at. The passage was unremarkable. Just a sliver of darkness, framed by smooth stone walls. No doors, no archways, no sign of the hidden citadel. Yet the air here felt different, charged with something unseen, humming just beneath the surface. Gerrod raised the lens. The violet light pulsed, casting eerie shadows against the walls. Then, there, a shimmer in the air, a ripple like heat rising from stone. A veil, thin as spider silk, stretched between the two buildings. Ace let out a low whistle. Well, I'll be damned. Gerrod stepped closer, fingers grazing the edge of the distortion. The air bent beneath his touch, cool and shifting like mist, a hidden threshold. He turned to Ace. No turning back now. Ace smirked, rolling his shoulders. Wasn't planning on it. With one last breath, they stepped forward, through the veil, into the unknown. The moment Gerrod raised the crystal lens to his eye, the world shifted. The narrow gap between the mansions no longer ended in a dead wall. Instead, through the violet glow of the lens, an ethereal structure flickered into view. A grand mansion, its towering spires and darkened windows rippling like a mirage. He lowered the lens. Nothing, just empty space and cold stone. He lifted it again. The citadel stood before them, veiled behind an illusion so perfect it may as well have been woven into the air itself. Ace let out a slow breath. Hells, no wonder no one finds the place. He squinted at the shifting outline. Even looking at it, don't feel real. The mansion was unlike the opulent estates flanking it. Its architecture was darker, older. Jagged spires curled toward the sky like grasping fingers, and its high-arched doors pulsed faintly as if aware of their presence. Gerrod's grip on the lens tightened. It's here. Ace rolled his shoulders. Aye, now just got to figure out how to walk through a wall. Gerrod studied the shimmering threshold, heart-pounding. The Shadow Myster's hunters were closing in. They had no time for hesitation. He stepped forward and reached out. The veil wavered, resisting for the briefest moment. Then, like mist parting before a storm, it swallowed him whole. The moment Gerrod stepped through the veil, the world changed. The muffled sounds of the city faded, swallowed by an unnatural stillness. The air thickened, humming with latent magic, pressing against his skin like the weight of unseen hands. The Veiled Citadel loomed before him, no longer a shifting outline, but a solid, towering structure of dark stone and twisted iron. Its spires clawed at the sky, the windows like empty sockets staring into nothing. The magic here was suffocating, woven so seamlessly into the air that it was impossible to tell where illusion ended and reality began. Ace stepped in beside him, exhaling sharply. Gods, he muttered, raking a hand through his beard. Feels like we walked into a ghost's bloody pocket. Gerrod nodded, his fingers brushing the hilt of his dagger. This wasn't just a hidden mansion. It was a fortress of deception, its defenses built not from stone and steel, but from magic itself. The walls pulsed faintly, shifting when he looked too long, as if daring him to believe they weren't real. He turned to Ace. This won't be easy. Ace snorted. Didn't reckon it would be. His sharp eyes swept the facade. Question is, how do we get inside without getting ourselves swallowed whole? Gerrod studied the grand entrance ahead, its heavy iron doors devoid of handles, locks, or hinges. Just smooth, unbroken metal. A door that wasn't meant to be opened. He exhaled. We find another way. Gerrod's keen eyes traced the contours of the Veiled Citadel, every detail shifting beneath the weight of its enchantments. The iron doors stood firm, featureless, offering no clear point of entry. No guards, no torches, nothing that belonged in the real world. It was as if the mansion itself denied existence, resisting even the notion of intrusion. Ace grunted, stepping forward. He ran a hand along the cold stone, only for his fingers to pass through it like smoke. He yanked his hand back with a curse. Not real, he muttered. Not solid, not fake, just something else. Gerrod nodded, his mind working. A threshold, a place between. It won't let just anyone in. He glanced at the lens, still pulsing faintly in his palm. But we've already seen past the first illusion. That means there has to be a way forward. Ace folded his arms, scanning the structure. A place like this won't just have one way in. Magic or not, they've got to get and out somehow. Servants, Couriers, messages. His sharp eyes narrowed. Look for the weak points. Not the grand entrance, but the cracks. Gerrod followed his lead, gaze sweeping the mansion's perimeter. A balcony, too high to reach. A lower window, its edges warping in and out of focus. A side passage leading into darkness, its shape uncertain but promising. He exhaled. We have choices. Ace smirked. Just gotta pick the one that kills us the slowest. Ace narrowed his eyes, watching the way the shadows curled unnaturally along the Citadel's walls. The magic here wasn't just for hiding, it was woven into the very bones of the place, pulsing like a living thing. Damn things wrapped up tighter than a miser's coin purse, he muttered. He took a small stone from his pocket and flicked it toward the nearest window. The moment it touched the shimmering surface, the air cracked, just a whisper of sound like ice splitting beneath heavy boots, before the stone vanished. Not shattered, not repelled, just gone. Ace grunted. Right, that's a problem. Gerrod frowned, gripping the crystal lens tighter. The wards weren't just keeping people out, they were devouring anything that tried to pass without permission. We can't force our way in, he exhaled. We need Kryxia. Ace nodded. She's the only one who knows how to crack magic like this without ending up a pile of dust. Gerrod scanned the area again, committing the layout to memory. Every entrance, every possible route, every weak point in the defenses. They would have one chance. We prepare, he said. Map the exits, find a safe point to regroup, then we bring Kryxia. Ace smirked. Best to have a damn key before we kick in the door. With one last glance at the Veiled Citadel, they slipped back into the night. The real heist would begin soon. Gerrod crouched low against the alley wall, pulling a scrap of parchment from his belt. He worked fast, sketching the layout from memory, every shadowed archway, every flickering distortion in the air where the magic pulsed strongest. The Citadel wasn't just hidden, it was guarded by the kind of magic that swallowed mistakes whole. Ace kept watch, eyes darting between the street and the glowing outline of the mansion still flickering through the lens. Hurry it up, he muttered. Don't fancy getting caught scribbling like some greenhorn. Gerrod didn't respond, his strokes swift but precise. The grand entrance, impossible. The balcony, too high. The side passage, unstable, shifting. The window, though, the magic there wavered differently, thinner than the others. A possible way in, if Kryxia could weaken the wards. He turned the parchment over, making quick notes. Patrol patterns, blind spots, escape routes. The nobles' estates nearby would offer cover, but only for so long. Ace peered over his shoulder. That window, yeah? Gerrod nodded. It's our best chance. Ace smirked. Lucky me, always wanted to jump through a cursed window. Gerrod rolled the parchment tight and tucked it away. We'll need Kryxia, and we'll need to move fast. He met Ace's gaze, his voice steady. Once we go in, there's no turning back. Ace's grin didn't falter. Wouldn't be fun if there was. With one last look at the Veiled Citadel, they slipped into the night. The real game was about to begin. A sharp whistle cut through the night air. Gerrod's head snapped up. Across the courtyard, a pair of city guards turned, their eyes locking onto the alleyway. Further down the street, a cloaked figure, one of the Shadow Myster's rats, was already slipping into the darkness, no doubt running to alert others. Shit, Ace muttered, already moving. Gerrod didn't hesitate. He shoved the parchment deeper into his coat, and bolted, Ace right beside him. They cut through the alley, feet pounding against damp stone, weaving between barrels and crates as the city came alive behind them. A shout. The scrape of steel. They're spreading out, Ace barked. They know we're sniffing somewhere we shouldn't. Gerrod vaulted over a low fence, his muscles burning. Then we make sure they don't follow us back. They shot across a narrow bridge, ducking beneath an archway, just as an arrow hissed past Gerrod's shoulder, splintering against the stone. The guards weren't just chasing, they were trying to pin them down. Ace growled. Bloody bastards brought bows. They veered left, cutting through a bustling tavern courtyard. Gerrod grabbed a full tray off a stunned servant's hands and flung it behind them. Tankards and food crashed to the ground, drawing curses and chaos. The distraction bought them seconds. They needed minutes. Ace caught Gerrod's arm. Rooftops. Gerrod didn't argue. With one last push, they leapt, scrambling up a wooden awning, pulling themselves onto the slanted tiles above. Below, the city guards poured into the street, shoving past bewildered patrons, searching. Not finding. Gerrod exhaled, crouched low. We need to vanish. Ace nodded, catching his breath. Aye, time to become ghosts. They disappeared into the rooftops, shadows among the stars. Gerrod and Ace slipped across the rooftops like wraiths, their boots silent against the weathered tiles. Below, the city churned with restless movement, guards barking orders, informants slipping through the shadows, eyes hunting where they no longer were. Gerrod risked a glance over his shoulder. No sign of pursuit. Not yet. Ace huffed beside him. Messy. But we're clear, Gerrod murmured. For now. They climbed down into a quiet side street, slipping into the deeper darkness of the lower district. The smell of damp wood and coal smoke thickened the air. This was their ground, where faces blurred together in the grime of the city. A place to disappear. Ace leaned against a crumbling wall, rolling his shoulder. Can't make mistakes like that again. His voice was low, edged with warning. Gerrod exhaled, nodding. We push too hard, too fast. We don't get a second chance. Ace smirked. Glad we're thinking the same. He pulled his coat tighter, scanning the empty street. We keep our heads down, lay low. We move when we're damn well ready. Gerrod tucked the crystal lens away. The Veiled Citadel wasn't going anywhere. They'd seen too much tonight, but so had their enemies. The next time they made a move, it had to be perfect. He met Ace's gaze. No more risks. Ace nodded, a slow grin spreading. Not till it's the right one. Then they vanished into the night, leaving no trace behind. Ace gripped the token tightly, his knuckles whitening around the worn edges. His dark eyes flickered with something sharp, determination, fire, the kind of resolve that came when a man knew he had only one road left to walk. No more runnin', he muttered. No more hidin'. Gerrod met his gaze, his own resolve set like stone. They had found the Veiled Citadel. The Shadow Myster's stronghold was no longer just a whispered legend. It was real, and it was vulnerable. But not to just the two of them. Not alone. He exhaled. We gather the vanguard. Every blade, every ally. We go in smart, we go in fast, and we finish this. Ace nodded once, the weight of the moment settling between them. Aye, time to carve the bastard's name out of the city. They had spent too long playing shadows against the Myster's empire of fear, too long being hunted, too long watching good people suffer beneath his unseen grip. That ended now. Gerrod glanced back toward the distant glow of the upper district, where the Veiled Citadel lurked, hidden and waiting, not for much longer. He turned to Ace. Let's get to work. With one final nod, they stepped into the dark, not as prey, but as hunters ready to bring a kingdom of shadows crashing down. Gerrod unrolled the rough city map across the scarred tavern table, pinning its corners with a dagger, a tankard, and Ace's belt knife. The flickering candlelight threw shifting shadows over the inked streets, walls, and gates. Around him, their gathered allies leaned in, their faces hard with resolve. This isn't just about getting in, Gerrod said, his voice low but firm. It's about all of us getting in, at the same time, from different directions. If one team fails, the others are compromised. Murmurs rippled through the group, some of agreement, some of apprehension. He tapped 3 points on the map. Ace, you take your group through the southern sewer bypass. It's tight, but you'll come up near the Ivory Ward's outer courtyards. Light patrols, if our scouts are right. Ace smirked. Lovely. Another night in filth. Gerrod ignored Ace's grumbling and turned his attention to Phelan, the stoic ex-soldier whose team was tasked with one of the most delicate infiltrations. Your team takes the East Market Gate, Gerrod stated, his finger tracing the path on the map leading directly into the Ivory Ward. Move just after first light. He paused, letting the implications settle. Traffic there is light then, mostly early servants or minor deliveries before the nobles stir. Less scrutiny, perhaps, than the main thoroughfares later in the day. He indicated the 2 sets of forged manifests nearby, weighted down with a whetstone. You'll use the covered wagons marked as carrying fine textiles. Your people stay hidden within the load. These papers look authentic enough for a quick inspection. Phelan nodded once, his face unreadable, absorbing the details. It's a riskier entry point if we are stopped, fewer crowds to blend into, he noted calmly. And if a guard gets curious, if the papers don't hold? Gerrod's eyes flicked to Ace. The dwarf didn't reach for coin. Instead, he drew a wickedly sharp dagger from his belt and tossed it onto the table. It landed with a sharp clatter beside the manifests, the firelight glinting off its polished edge. The message was stark, brutal, and unmistakable. "Then," Ace said, his voice flat and devoid of humor, "you make 'em hold." Laughter flickered, but died quickly. The weight of the moment settled on them all. Gerrod's finger traced along the northern walls. "I'll take a team through the old gate's blind spot. That shift change gives us 60 seconds to move unseen. If we miss it, we don't get in." Rylan, who had been silent until now, leaned forward. His voice was gravelly but steady. "My team takes the northern crossing. There's a gap in the patrols there, but the walls are high. We'll need ropes and fast hands to scale. No room for hesitation." Gerrod nodded. "Understood. We'll give you a signal if it looks like any of the gates are compromised." Phelan, the ex-soldier, pointed to a flanking route on the Citadel map. "The main assault will draw their forces, but we risk being cut off if they rally reinforcements from the Ivory Ward barracks quickly. We need someone reliable to hold the western approach, keep stray patrols off our backs." Rylan nodded, a grim satisfaction entering his eyes. "They'll be held. I finalized the terms this morning. Varric and the Crimson Coin fight with us." Ace raised a skeptical eyebrow from where he leaned against the wall. "The coin? Mercenaries, Rylan? Can we trust blades that fight only for gold?" "Their contracts dried up when the Myster choked the city," Rylan countered firmly. "Varric lost good soldiers to the Myster's justice when they refused to fall in line. This isn't about coin for them anymore. It's about payback. They know the risks, and they know the Myster needs to fall for anyone outside his circle to thrive again. Varric gave his word. They hold the flank." Marta added quietly, "Their reputation for holding a contract once sworn is solid, even if their methods are direct. They'll buy us the time we need." Gerrod considered it. Mercenaries were unpredictable, but their presence added significant strength. "Agreed," he said. "Let Varric hold the flank. We focus on the breach." The tension in the room grew thicker, the air heavy with unspoken fears. Kryxia folded her arms. "We have to accept the cost. If we falter now, we lose the city." Gerrod met her gaze. "Then we go knowing the risk. We don't stop until we reach the Hollow Rose." His finger circled a square just outside the Citadel's shadow. "This is our rally point. Once we cross, we regroup here. From there, we strike." One by one, the commanders nodded. No second chances, no retreat. The Veiled Citadel would fall, or they would. Ace exhaled sharply. "Then let's not waste the first." Rylan's eyes gleamed with something darker. "I'll see you at the rally point." Hands met in the center of the table, a shared vow sealed in flickering candlelight. The Shadow Myster's reign would end this night, whatever it took.
They've done it. They've pierced the veil, mapped the fortress, and escaped the Myster's hunters with their lives. They know the enemy's location, and they have a plan. But two men cannot take a fortress alone. Now they must gather their allies, the brave men and women of the Resistance who have been waiting for this moment. The time for stealth is over. The time for war is at hand. Be here for the epic assault in Chapter 20. The Vanguard arrives. The army is gathering. Subscribe and join the siege.